Matt Smith here for Sports Talk at the Stadium, presented by Touchstone Energy Cooperatives Bowl. That's coming up December 11th. Can't wait to tell you more about that. And, of course, also Mr. Football South Carolina will be a part of that. Be sure to track Sports Talk throughout the high school football season. We've got the Founders Federal Credit Union high school scoreboard show each and every Friday night, going all the way up through December 3rd. So be sure to stay tuned there. You'll find out all you want to know about high school football in the great state of South Carolina. And the Touchstone Energy Cooperatives Bowl will top it all off. All right, now on to what happened today at Williams-Brice. Wow, a trying day for everyone involved, the offense, the defense, the coaching staff, perhaps most of all the fans that were subjected to a comedy of errors for South Carolina. Of course, for South Carolina fans, we know it's not funny. You've endured it. You've endured it. Only years later can it be funny. Maybe you can laugh about something that happened, in the Sparky Woods era. Maybe you can laugh about something, a bad call that went against you in the Joe Morrison era or the Lou Holtz era. Not right now. This is a team that's building and by all accounts should have looked better today than they did. So let's start with that. We go good, bad, ugly for South Carolina today in their 23-14 victory over Troy. The offense, still no identity, and it seemed to me the coaching staff came out, they spread the ball around, 9 different receivers touched the football in the first half, but they did not establish the running game against Troy. You thought maybe South Carolina would go out and try to bully Troy a little bit. Maybe do what they couldn't do against Kentucky and Georgia, which is establish the run game with their all-SEC back, Kevin Harris. And he's got a couple of really nice complementary pieces back there in Juju McDowell and in Marshawn Lloyd. So you thought South Carolina might try to do that. They didn't. They came out, they relied early on Luke Doty, a series of rollouts, play-action passes. They were using orbit motion, doing some different things, and having mixed success with the passing game. Doty's numbers after the first half, pretty good, 14 of 24 for over 200 yards passing. That was pretty good, putting up yardage, but not capitalizing and scoring touchdowns. Well, any football fan, coach, or observer will tell you, you want to score in the red zone, you've got to run the ball successfully. South Carolina didn't do that, especially early on in the ballgame. So they let Troy hang around. But the defense was up to the task, forcing a couple of early turnovers, putting South Carolina in good position. And right at the end of the first half, Troy was driving, and Clayton White's defensive unit came up big again. David Spalding, who was playing quite a bit today, Cam Smith was injured, a rash of injuries for South Carolina as well. Small injuries. And David Spalding, seeing time, keeps his head up. That excellent front four for South Carolina creates pressure on Taylor Powell of Troy. Ball goes high. David Spalding has his head up, picks it off, 74 yards for a touchdown. South Carolina in control of the game, 17-7. Troy regroups, comes out in the second half with a nice game plan. And they're able to put a field goal on the board, or rather another touchdown, make it 17-14. And then that is when South Carolina seemingly falls apart. They shoot themselves in the foot on third down, both offensively and defensively. Defensively, giving up 50% on third down for the second week in a row. They did that in the loss to Kentucky, did it again this week to Troy. Offensively, South Carolina, 3 of 12 on third down last week, 0 of 3 on fourth down last week. This week, 4 of 13 on third down. That's against Troy. Kentucky probably has an upper echelon defense, maybe an above average SEC defense. Troy does not. They have a good defense statistically, but when you look at the talent disparity out there, Troy and South Carolina ought to be able to stay on the field. They couldn't do that today, again, going 4 of 13 on third down. And the play that perhaps encapsulates what it was like to be here today at Williams-Brice Stadium. As I said, comedy of errors, but it wasn't funny. Everybody in the press box just looked at each other and said, are we seeing what we're seeing? South Carolina, Clayton White dials up a blitz. It works to perfection because Jalen Foster, who's been a hero to South Carolina fans this year, 4 interceptions on the season, blitzes the blind side of Taylor Powell. strips the ball away. It's picked up by Damani Staley. Staley fumbles it almost immediately. But there's Jamar Brown, who forced a poor punt. I don't know if we'll call it a block punt or not, but forced a Troy blocker up man into his punter. So Jamar Brown was right in the middle of all of this. He's making plays. He scoops the ball up, races to the end zone for an apparent touchdown. They're going to review the play because perhaps Damani Staley was on the ground when he recovered the second fumble on the play. Well, in doing this, in reviewing the play, it turns out there's a third fumble. Jamar Brown celebrates too early, tosses the ball aside at the 1 yard line. It rolls through the back of the end zone, and what do you know? Touchback for Troy. South Carolina's defense, who had been on the field the entire third quarter, has to go right back out on the field. That was the kind of day it was. Missed opportunities for South Carolina. Very sloppy. This was not to be expected a week after South Carolina fell to Kentucky in a game that was so crucial in trying to build a bowl resume. Now South Carolina 3-2. Perhaps where most observers, most analysts would have had them. 3-2 is about where South Carolina you would expect them to be. They're winning the games they're favored in. They've lost the 2 games where they were the underdog. But it's the way they've gotten here. I think most fans would believe South Carolina should be a better football team at this stage under Shane Beamer. They should be able to run the ball more effectively, especially against opponents from the Sun Belt like Troy. They were able to do that a season ago with Kevin Harris. They can't do it. They have not established that as of yet. Where is Luke Doty? Hot and cold. A really good first half, a lackluster second half. Who's standing out at receiver? No one. Perhaps other than Josh Vann, who oddly ended as the Gamecocks' leading rusher. You want to talk about the rush game for South Carolina? They're utilizing orbit motion and fake option reverses to try to get anybody involved. Josh Vann ended up as the Gamecocks' leading rusher today with 52 yards rushing on 2 carries. He got those on reverses. Kevin Harris, because they're trying to get him the ball if they can. They can't run the football effectively. He ended up having 49 yards receiving, the most for any Gamecock. So right now, it's a catch-as-catch-can offense for South Carolina. They're just trying to stay on the field. There isn't a true identity, and I think maybe even Shane Beamer is surprised they couldn't run the football effectively today. So stay tuned there. We'll continue to talk to our coaches, our analysts, and hear from you throughout the week. Of course, you'll get Phil Kornblut's opinion on this, Chris Bergen's opinion on this. Phil is on assignment with Clemson right now. Chris saw Coastal Carolina get yet another victory, and we'll all be together Monday night, Sports Talk Media Network across the state, discussing this game with you, where South Carolina goes from here. We know that where they go to Tennessee, they go to Rocky Top, where Tennessee is rolling right now. They are going to be flying high after punishing Missouri earlier today. So you've got one team, perhaps fractured confidence in South Carolina, another team in Tennessee. They know exactly who they are under new head coach Josh Heupel. We'll see if that story changes next week at Knoxville. That's it for Sports Talk at the Stadium. Matt Smith be with you this week on Sports Talk with Phil Kornblut, Chris Bergen. Be sure to follow our tweets as well, Sports Talk SC, and always follow along on our website, sportstalksc.com.